And it says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Yeah.
So we did it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another evening of Artist Conversations with the Otherworldly Art Collective. And tonight we're talking with Helene Woods about her artwork. I am experiencing some technical difficulties today, so it might just be the wonderful artist at some point. We're just going to keep on trucking and see how this works. Also, we're going to start bringing in not just myself for doing these artist conversations. We're going to start having every member of the Otherworldly Arts Collective start doing it. So now we're starting a buddy system, and Juan is going to be kind of in the background learning. And Helene has been very gracious to
Not just in the background. I'm here as your co-host.
He's doing great. He's doing great. So he's here to be the buddy. So unfortunately, you're gonna have two humans all over you, being like, "Hey, tell us all your secrets." But for people who haven't had the opportunity to talk with you or meet you, can you introduce yourself and then talk about your artwork and what kind of artist you are?
Happy to. My name is Helene Woods. Sometimes I go by D. Helene Woods if you're Googling me. And I do narrative paintings, generally large scale paintings. And what I'm interested in are a lot of things, but mainly how the world and imposed gender roles sort of impact our well-being. So when you look at my images, you're seeing people in sort of a transparent state and an imagined biology. And I use that as a means to have them interact internally with the environment around them. So let me go back a little bit because I think that's hard to understand without some context. I started out just being really fascinated with MRI images and when you go to the airport, those X-ray images of ourselves. And I was just really fascinated with looking at ourselves from the inside. And I started thinking about, we are completely different people on the inside and we can paint ourselves from the outside, but I don't know that I'm really getting at the core of who that person really is and what they're feeling at that time. So I started doing images sort of representing the MRI images, and eventually I ended up at a place where I was doing actual narratives where these sort of transparent, imagined biology people were interacting in the world around them. And through that, I could talk about things like imposed gender roles, or even I'm doing some work on COVID now where I'm talking about what does it feel like to be a person experiencing COVID, or I've done work with disabled figures. What does that sort of feel like, and what are the things around them that they need, and so forth. So, in a nutshell, but. A lot of it's really autobiographical, so there's weird stuff in there as well. So I just, that in a nutshell is kind of what I'm doing. So
that's
awesome.
That's so, I feel like being an artist and talking with other artists, like everything that you just said, I was like, oh my God, that's so good. That's exactly what you do. You said exactly what your artwork is. You know what I mean?
I've had some experience writing down what I do over and over and over to get grants. So you get good at telling people quickly what it is you do without, hopefully without sounding too pretentious, but yeah.
Right. So I just want everyone to note the fact that just out of curiosity, how many years did it take you to get
to be able to do that speech really quickly?
Besides the speech, but be like, this is what I'm doing.
Oh, well, I started out as an abstract expressionist. So I was doing something entirely different for a couple decades. And I had 10 really hard years. Like my 40s were super, super, super hard. I don't want to go into it, but anything that could have possibly happened to a human being happened to me. And I had to take a break away from artwork just to deal with everything. And when I came back, abstract expressionism just wasn't resonating for me. It wasn't getting out all this stuff that had happened in a way that was meaningful. And that was really hard. I was starting to feel like am I no longer an artist? Did it just kill me? Did it kill all the art? So I just had to start over from scratch. And, if you'd had asked me 20 years ago, 30 years ago, would I ever be doing human figures? I would have, never. That's just never going to happen. That's not what I do. But I started drawing to start out with, and then I started painting again. And then I just managed to, just keep working through it it took a couple years of really dedicated every day, do something, try to make this work. And then when I finally realized that I had this imagined biology sort of set, and that I was actually putting them in storylines or narratives, I realized I had a really good framework that would allow me to think about all sorts of things and still be able to hold on to this core sort of dealing with people from the inside out, and all the things around them. And so I think I'll be doing this for quite a long time now. It works really well. And it got all that stuff out.
No, we
So
really love your work. It's just amazing.
thank you. Thanks.
So like when you were doing the work before, and like, I think it's really important because like artists can do, like, you're an artist in every flavor that you are an artist. Like when you said like I was doing abstract for a big part of my life and then I stopped,
Mhm.
and then I went and did something else. And like there's a lot of artists out there that I don't think that they realize that, you get to branch out whenever you feel like it. Like you can make those hard, and it's hard to do.
Mhm.
It's hard to be like that you're talking about bravery to be like, it was 10 years that I had to work on other things in my life, and I went back. I mean, that first step, that first day where you're like, I'm going to try, I'm going to do it. Like
I think for me, the biggest thing was I really hated that I wasn't doing art on a regular basis during that time, but I just had too many things I had to be doing. But you also reach a point where it's like, this was my dream. This is what I always wanted to be. And I don't want to like look back on my life and think that I let it go because things got hard. So, but what that meant for me was working a full-time job and raising my kids and doing a good 20 to 30 hours a week, evenings and weekends in the studio. And I still do that. It's,
That's a lot.
it is a lot. Yeah. People ask me how I get so much done, and I'm just like, well, I have no social life, and I'm okay with that. I don't go out much. I go to art exhibit openings, and that's it, So I haven't done anything for a year since there haven't been any, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, because I feel like can you just talk about, I almost want to be like, tell me about all your art jobby things that you do, because I know that it's a lot.
the
Like,
art jobby things.
yeah, which is not a very good term. I mean that like, this is what happens. Like every time that I start talking with someone, I'm like, hey, besides your 40-hour a week job, besides your family, besides all your other duties as like a human being on this planet, you are also, in addition, another layer of, this is my phrasing, anxiety of being an artist and nurturing that piece of yourself.
Mhm.
And then I know you volunteer, you're in art communities, you write grants.
Mhm.
Tell me about all those things.
Gosh. Well, I write grants as part of sort of my revenue plan just to fund being an artist, right? And I'm always sort of planning a series of paintings for the next show. So my hope is that I always have enough on hand for a show while I'm working on the next group of paintings for shows after that. And I got some things coming up. A lot of things were canceled in 2020. But I have a solo show in September of 21 in oh goodness. Detroit Lakes, I believe. I think I get it that wrong. And then Inver Hills Community College, I have one coming up in 2021. And, I always try to get public art sort of things. I have a big public art reveal coming up, hopefully by the end of this month at the Monticello Community Center. I can show you guys that. Do you want to see that?
Yes,
Yeah.
Share screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
I had to turn it off when we were having that tech.
Again?
Try again. Did it
Yep.
work?
I think so. Can you see it?
Mm-mm.
Can you see it now?
There. Yes.
Okay. So this is 5 panels. They're all 4 feet by 16 feet tall. And they'll be going on the Monticello Community Center on the exterior. And I can't imagine anyone out there knows that building, but it's like First Avenue. So it's a rounded building, but a little taller. So those will be going on there. And you can see that, again, this is a way of working with that imagined biology. But I was thinking about, these are people who are doing fun things that make them healthy and happy. So hopefully these are happier, healthier biologies. But
Nice.
16 feet. That's huge.
yeah, what I learned from that experience is I can fit, if I had to, 17 feet long in the studio,
Yeah.
but no more than that.
Oh, man.
And I can't get more than, because they were painted in 2 panels, so they're
Okay.
2 8-foot panels.
Yeah,
I
sure.
can't get anything longer than 8 feet up the stairs without
Okay.
taking a wall. So I just made it.
That's crazy.
So
Remember the first time that you had a piece in our show and it took up like the whole side of the wall. I was like, what the heck is going on here? And I was just looking at it, I'm like, damn, that's huge. But
yeah,
it's
that particular
just
piece,
amazing. Your
that
stuff's
particular piece is Ponder. It's at the Minneapolis Convention Center now, but nobody saw it, so they're going to extend it another year.
oh
Oh,
cool.
good.
Yeah.
That's
So,
okay.
I don't know. So when you talk about the stuff I do, I look for opportunities. I go to the Minnesota artist site and I just go through all the opportunities and I apply for a lot and I get turned down a lot. I have a spreadsheet that shows me that I get turned down about 70% of the time. So
Wait. Hold on.
That's nuts.
So another thing, like being an artist, is the critique factor.
Mhm.
I mean, like, I don't know if you saw that, like, our next like contest is Burn It.
Yeah.
And
I've been trying to figure out what's my worst thing that I can throw in there.
and the whole idea of that is that art is extremely subjective, you know, like it's, you know, what is one person's treasure is another person's trash, or however that idiom goes.
Mhm.
And like, so like Rock was talking about, like, no, I want to be that snotty art critic because like
I do too.
well, in some ways we all are. I mean, as artists, it's like I feel like we have, like, instead of the devil and the like angel on the shoulder, we have like the art critic, and then like, I don't know, the cheerleader or something. Like, come on, do it. No, you suck. Like,
Yeah.
and it goes back and forth. But that's hard to take.
Yeah, so
70
2 things. One thing I've learned is every time I do a painting, like I do all these drawings and I get ready and then I do the painting, but I'll get about a third through the painting and I think it is the worst thing I've ever done and I should just stop and trash it. Like there's always this point, and I literally have to tell myself, be brave, just keep going. And it does get better and better and better and better. But like there's this low point with every piece. And the other thing I want to point out is, like, we have lost all the good arts criticism agencies in Minnesota. Like, I don't think anyone's even doing it anymore. We used to have Art Paper, we used to have a few more. And I really think that that's a huge gap in Minnesota. I think there's a lot of reviews going on that are very Minnesota nice, but we aren't challenging, you know, what we're seeing. We're not asking good questions. And unless you're in like a really good arts history master's program, you're not having those dialogues. So I would love to see, not just, I think what you're doing is really cool because it's sort of got a funny context around it, but I would love to see a space where we could actually have hard, critical conversations about what are we looking at? How is it relevant? Is it good? Isn't it good? You know, just have those talks. I'd love that stuff.
I think that when it's safe to gather again, I would absolutely love to help you facilitate it with us.
I'd love that. That'd be great, but I'm not always nice, so.
and that's okay. But like, there is an art to the critique.
Mm.
You know, like, I mean, you're not doing it to just be nasty. I mean, like, it
Right.
feels
Art
like
is
that.
important. Art is important, and it allows us an opportunity to talk about things in a certain way that we don't do on a daily basis. So, you know.
But it's also, you have to have a benefit to the artist that's receiving it. I mean, you can sit there and call it trash all day, but like, what are they going to do with that, like, information, except being like, okay, it's trash.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
wanted, the best critique is things where you're like, this is something that will move that artist to do something, you know, to help them grow as an artist.
Mhm.
But we are also very sensitive creatures. So how do you get past like that hump of like, how do you receive the critique badly? Like you have a spreadsheet. That is amazing.
I have a spreadsheet. It's green if they liked it, and it's red if they said no, you're not it. And there's a lot more red than green, yeah. But also I read all the critiques that when you do put in a grant, you can usually get your feedback back. There was one on the last one that really sort of, I'm still sort of processing through, but basically what they said was, you know, I'm asking people to put themselves in somebody else's body and in a goal of hopefully building some sort of compassion for people who are different than us, right? So I have this imagined biology, and I'm asking you to sort of think about that. And the critique back was from a disabled person who said, you know, that makes me really uncomfortable, the idea that somebody would put themselves in my body and think about what it might be to be that person. And I think that's an important feedback. And I also think that's how compassion works though, right? So I'm still sort of struggling with that. Like, that's why critique is so important, because that's an incredibly valid point about my artwork, and I should know that. I haven't quite figured out what to do with that yet, but you know, critique is important. It's not, I mean, critique that's just, I hate your work is irrelevant, and ignore all that. Like people who are just telling you things to make you feel bad, you can usually pinpoint the difference. But people who are interested in what you're doing can have some valid negative points that we should consider, you know.
Sure.
But I think you're hitting the nail on the head that like, yeah, there's people that are like, I hate it. And you're like, I don't need
Okay.
to.
Yeah.
That's not for me. And
Mhm.
that's, I don't know, I'm just gonna like golf clap you to be like, yeah, like that protective like boundary of being like, no, you're not giving me anything for my artwork, so you don't get to like just say whatever it is. And just the only reason I put it out there is that we have artists that may not have a formal background.
Mhm.
And when you don't always have a formal background, you have no idea what critique is.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, those of us with formal backgrounds, we've had to sit in rooms and be quiet while a group of people just went after you. Yeah, and that can be hard. Um, you know, for people without formal backgrounds, you know, but you can go on the internet now and hear things, awful things about yourself at any given time. I think we are getting some sort of critique back, but it's not telling us that critique is good.
Right.
Yeah. So there's just too many places to feel bad about ourselves, and critique seems exceptionally scary as a result.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I know that we went off on a critique tangent because I'm just blown away by the spreadsheet because like it's
70% is a lot.
well, 70% is a lot if you're doing it in numbers, but then
Mhm.
that's also 30% of success,
Sure.
you know?
I mean, I keep the spreadsheet primarily so I can keep track of who actually responded.
Yeah.
Sometimes agencies don't even tell you that they declined you, and then that tells me they may not be somebody I want to work with again. Like if you can't just send me an email saying thanks for your submission, but we went in another direction, or there were like 700 and only 2 were chosen. If you can't even give me that, I may not want to apply to them again. So I have some history there, but also it's good to see progress. Like 2 years ago, that 70% was probably in the 90%, and then, or maybe 4 years ago, and then it gets a little lower each time, which is nice. I also can be more selective as to where I apply. It also helps me figure out, do I have gaps in where I'm trying to get out to? Like, you know, should I be broadening my field now? You know, am I ready to do that?
Do you mean like broadening your field, like distance wise of where you're showing your art, or like what type of businesses, like art gallery versus market or something?
Well, it can help me figure out how much public art I've done compared to how much galleries, compared to how many universities I got into, which, you know, sounds really huge, but, you know, we're talking like 1 or 2 of each, not like 20 of each, or I wouldn't have a day job. But, uh, also, yeah, kind of geographically, because I'm in rural Minnesota. And so I sort of want to hit the wider areas because my my base, so to speak, is not necessarily Minneapolis. And also it's kind of nice to sort of look out and see, was I able to get into something in another state? Was I able to broaden my horizons a little bit? So
now I'm another tangent just slightly, but your artwork is mostly very large.
yeah.
So, and if you are distance wise, like moving into all these spaces, are you delivering your artwork yourself?
Yeah. So if you're thinking that doing large work and getting into galleries will get you a lot of money, I'm primarily getting into nonprofit galleries, and sometimes I win some awards and get some cash back, and sometimes there's a sale. But for the most part, and that'll help me break even with the transportation costs, because I'm renting a U-Haul and I'm driving it all the way out there, and then I'm renting a U-Haul and going out there to pick everything up. That's a huge part of my costs. So yeah. So I kind of break even sometimes, sometimes not. Yeah.
Would you mind just showing a little bit of your studio so that people have an idea of how, I mean, we'll show artwork too, but like.
We're just going to go around in a circle real quick.
Sure.
Those are huge canvases.
Yeah. Do you build your own canvases?
I do. I used to cut my own, miter my own edges and everything too. But I'm not really great at it, and I got tired of having canvases that were super heavy. Most of the larger ones were around 45 to 55 pounds. So if I did have to transport them, it was best to take them off a stretcher. So now I have been ordering lighter weight stretcher bars, but I still stretch them myself and sand them and everything.
Sure.
Put them together.
And I never realized that you rented a U-Haul.
Yeah, when I brought that big one out, I can't remember if I had to rent a U-Haul for the unicorn show or not. That one was pretty big too. Maybe not. I don't remember.
How big is that piece to your left?
It might be
by 8 feet. This one.
Yeah.
I can bring that one up on screen.
Yeah.
Let me share. Okay. And this one's called Cinderellas. And it was, I was thinking a great deal about, again, imposed gender roles and the holidays and how women get together and have to do all the cooking, and how that's sort of a love-hate relationship between, a lot of us really love cooking, but sometimes it's like, why do I have to do this? So there's a little bit of humor in there, and I like to make my figures, and I throw back to like mythical sort of creatures, and they're creating magic, and they're warriors when they're doing housework and things like that. You can see she's getting burned on her stove, and there's something exploding, and this woman's just all over the place with her winemaking, and there's stuff everywhere, and I like to like make them super busy.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's great.
I'll show you another one real quick about making housework into, whoops, can I scroll down? Oh no, it's not going to let me scroll down. Show all windows. There it is. Okay. Can you see this one?
Hold on, it's coming up.
Yep.
Okay. So this is called Surf and Turf. And this is an example of where I took, basic laundry doing and tried to make them into sort of mythological goddesses for their efforts and so forth. And they're doing all sorts of things in there. This one recently won an award at McCrosty Art Center, and it is, I want to say 6 by 6 feet.
So when you start putting like a lot of these larger pieces together, like, do you sketch it out first? Like, are you creating the composition? Do you just like dive right in? Like, what's generally your process to being that large?
So I start out drawing on pretty large 16 by 24 paper. And I start out with a human figure, and then I start adding things to that. And then I break it down into like a square or a rectangle or whatever makes sense composition wise. So I have a core composition with all sorts of, stuff on the outside. Actually, I can show you something like that.
Yeah.
I may not have brought that one up, but so here's just an example of what my drawings might look like. And then I'll do like studies of areas that I think I'm going to have trouble with painting. And so then I end up with all these drawings, and then I throw them on the wall in my studio, and I hit the canvas. And my rule is when I hit the canvas is whatever happens on the canvas stays on the canvas. So that becomes a really sort of intuitive process. So I may spend a great deal of time getting the figures drawn on right and getting the composition up the way I'd planned. But once you start adding color to everything, it's the abstract expressionist in me sort of takes over. And if I start doing or seeing things appear that were not necessarily planned, my rule is whatever happens, it has to stay there. So I keep going in that direction. And through that, I learn a lot about myself. I learn a lot about what I was trying to say that I didn't know I was trying to say. Things sort of happen. I guess a good example of that, there was a painting called Birdcage, and it was meant to be like a woman under an umbrella that turns into a birdcage. And by the time I got done painting it, I realized that I had really put her inside what was sort of like a pill, like a medication type pill.
Yeah.
And she was trapped inside that. And I realized that afterwards that I had been feeling really my kids are on a lot of different meds, and we've been changing the meds a lot. And that sounded horrible. My my kids had some medical issues, and they were on some medications, and I was struggling with getting them on the right stuff. We were changing things around, and I realized through just painting that I was feeling, really stressed about making sure they took things at the right time and we got the right stuff and that they were going to be okay. But I didn't know I was feeling that until I did this umbrella that turned into something else. So whatever happens on the canvas stays on the canvas, just a rule.
So what about colors? Because you are like, you have
Super
like,
bright.
I know your palette. Like
Yeah.
besides the size, I know your palette.
Mm-hmm.
So like, is that premeditated, or is that just like something natural that comes through?
I'm just always attracted to these really, really bright colors. I'm working on this COVID project now, and I'm still in the drawing phase, but I'm thinking for the first time that I'm really going to have to change the palette, because these are really hard, somber issues. I'm talking to people who have been in the hospital, and I'm talking to their providers and what they've gone through, and they're talking about religion and pain and the sounds they're hearing. And I think the bright colors that I normally use are going to be not beneficial for that. But yeah,
Right.
I am sort of known for a whole lot of orange, a whole lot of reds, really bright stuff. And I can't tell you why. It's just what I'm drawn to. It's just what happens. I think also because I work with acrylic inks, we haven't talked about this, but like acrylic inks. So I use regular acrylics, golden acrylics, but then I take the inks and I literally draw on the canvas to make other things. And acrylic inks tend to also be just sort of vibrant colors. If you use duller colors, it just doesn't show up over the other paintings. So that too.
So what is the difference between acrylic ink and acrylic like paint?
So acrylic paint, I think we all know what it is. It's paint. You can get it super thick, or I use liquid, often fluid, but I also sometimes make things thick. Acrylic ink is it's acrylic paint where the pigment is super, super strong. And you can use it like watercolor, but I literally use it. It comes with these droppers. And then you can draw on the canvas. And I found that really, really freeing. Like, I don't know if you can see the one behind me, but I did a lot of just like the hair and stuff. That's just from drawing directly on the canvas.
Oh, nice.
So
That's Okay, that fascinates me that you have a tool that is very like, you know, with large canvases, like I've seen where people, when they paint, they're like using their entire bodies to like cover that canvas, you know? It's like different when you have like a comic book artist or something that's like in small wrist,
Yeah.
this kind of thing. But you have a canvas and then you're drawing with a dropper.
Yeah. So I'm taking these huge, really heavy paintings. They're up against the wall. Okay, now I'm going to draw on them. Now they're down on the floor, and now they're back up on the wall. They're down on the floor, and I'm always waiting for something to dry. So then I go to the next one. But it's a real physical process. And yeah, sometimes I am like spread legged, trying to like figure out how to get in the middle of wherever. But I love it because it just allows this great spontaneity on the canvas that provides motion and movement that I don't think you can get with a brush. Um, so I just really like it.
So no brush at all?
Oh, I do use brushes, but then
Okay.
I go over it again and I draw on top.
Right,
So,
okay.
yeah.
That's
And then I go over that and I paint over that. And so there's lots of layering going on. Also, what's nice about the acrylic inks is it allows me to do glazing. I don't know if you can see this.
Can you explain what you mean by glazing?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring you closer to something and I
Yeah.
can explain it.
Yeah.
Okay, so way over here. So you see this light fixture,
Yeah.
and you see how the light's coming out? You'll
Yeah.
often see I do things with light, and then I will take the acrylic inks in not the drawing form, but just in a lighter, just a little bit of ink goes a long way, and I can change the entire color. So glazing means changing the color, basically. So this is the original color, and I put the inks over it, and all the colors changed. So I do that a lot. Like you'll see that there's lights or lamps or things exploding, and I'll use the acrylic inks to help glaze that. Just a fun color theory sort of thing to do.
I have this great image in my brain of you painting above like this huge canvas. You're like hanging from the ceiling on this wire, and you're like moving around, kind of swinging back and forth while you're painting. And yeah, it's just great.
Yeah, even that description of like how you like apply your paint is not what I envisioned at all.
Yeah.
Like not at all. I guess like when you see giant paintings, you just assume that it's one movement, and now that movement is so different. You know what I mean? Like I guess this is always the benefit of doing these conversations, because I'm like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
What just happened?
Yeah, someday I'll have to do like a video of me painting so you can just then speed it up so you can see me like against the wall, on the floor, on the wall, on the floor.
Then you get your exercise in. You're
There you
like,
go.
yeah,
It is a workout. It's a very physical thing. Yeah,
Games.
absolutely.
we
I have
haven't.
fallen too, by the way, onto my paintings.
Oh no.
It's
You haven't
happened.
damaged the canvas, have you?
Was it?
Have you ever damaged the canvas doing that?
Well, not doing that. I mean, I have damaged a canvas, but usually just in transportation.
Okay.
So I realize, can we look through some of your artwork and like, can we talk about some of the pieces?
Yeah, let's.
You
Did you have
wanna share?
anything
Do you want-
particular in mind? Should we do the COVID stuff real quick?
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
that.
So, COVID stuff. Okay. So just to give you some background, you can see it, correct? Yep.
Yep.
I got a grant to do a bunch of paintings on the experience of patients experiencing COVID and to look at, how internally does that feel? And my goal was, people were saying this isn't a big thing and, it's just the flu, was to help people understand like there are some serious ramifications for some people if you get this. And I'm in the process of doing the drawings. The drawings are going to go up at Embry Hills Community College on an online show in February. And then at a later date, we'll do the paintings. And I'm hoping we'll get some other venues besides that. But this is how I start. I always start with just some drawings. And I've never actually exhibited the drawings before because to me they're not the real work. But in this case, they're going to be some of the real work. So that is new to me to I'll show you some more, to actually be exhibiting my drawings. And I have tons of drawings. Like,
So cool.
so you can see again, like I'm always interested in line, even though I'm painting, I do that with my drawing as well. Like,
Sure.
and give you another one. I think this is the last one I have available. I was talking with a woman about, helping people interact with their families through the cell phone. So this is an example of where I might use glazing because there's light coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
I realize that it's like, the sketching version and everything, but the comparison of like your color palette to your drawings
Mm-hmm.
and also like the tone of what this is,
Yep. The color changes it entirely.
it
Yeah,
just,
it really does.
it's so dark. It's so, it's like, I guess the work that I like can recall and everything, it's like some of it is kind of in like darker themed territories. I mean, or serious
Mm-hmm.
territories, but like the color palette like makes it maybe like a little bit more accessible, so it's not so scary when you first like start interacting with it.
Yep. Yeah, and I brought up this one because I think it's a good example of dealing with darkness in a bright way. Like, because I do that. If you look closely at my work, there's almost always something kind of dark going on. But this case, I was doing a painting about having to do birthday parties for my kids, and I have 3 kids. So I was kind of tired of having to do that. And so I think a lot of my paintings are just, privileged complaining, but to a point. When I was doing this one, it was at the time where we were just learning that there were kids in cages at the border. And I started feeling really bad about complaining about having to do yet another birthday party. And I was thinking about all the kids that maybe having birthdays and don't even know it, and all the moms who would be thrilled to be able to give their child a birthday party at that time, and continues to this day. So it changed dramatically, the painting, as I was working on it. And you can see I brought in like a piñata. I have the baseball bats to hit the piñata, and her head is also a piñata with red, white, and blue around the baseball bat linings and so forth. Because birthday parties are a wonderful thing, but in this case, we are dealing with darkness, and I'm still using bright, bright colors. So I hope people will look into the context, enjoy the colors, but I don't know that darkness in our lives appears in gloomy colors. We usually don't even realize it was darkness until it's too late. So,
Yeah, it's hidden very well sometimes.
yeah.
There's like, we've been having conversations about like the whole premise of like us being the Otherworldly Arts Collective and the shows that we have been pushing forward and stuff, is that the idea is that we create worlds, like that is what we're doing, is we're creating different worlds. And we attract, I would say, a certain artist. And when I explain it to like, other humans who have no idea what an art community is or anything, it's like, I feel like we attract the storytellers. And I'm not saying that like a lot of artists out there, that we're all a different form of storytelling, I always like say that like compared to the other artistic disciplines, like our audience is very detached from us, and we're like these secret ninjas in the night where we're like, we're gonna paint this and then present it, and now what?
Yeah.
Like, and then we go off, and do whatever, unless you're like me and like to stand really close to your painting and see what people are talking about it, like a creepo. But
They're just talking about what they're going to do the next day. Trust me.
but like we have, we attract the storytellers, like I feel like we attract the I always heard this like in between term that I always never really liked, because like it was something that I always struggled with, where it's like, oh, it's almost too illustrative, like not fine artsy enough. I was like, what does that mean? Like, it's like we bring the people that like want to set the stage. Like you're here, you're saying that you're creating the narratives and you have this story that should be accompanying your artwork.
Mhm.
Like it moves together with it. And
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Like being somebody that like, tries to harbor this creativity in other humans. And I guess I just want to say that like all of those pieces are so important, your storytelling, like to the invisible audience that exists. You know what I mean? Like even like doing this helps me see like the extra steps that are going along with it, which I'm again running off into a tangent, but like the COVID and the birthday party and all of those things, like I'm just really, I feel fortunate to hear it right now.
Oh, I feel fortunate to have the opportunity to like put the context behind it, because it's so, thank you. I don't know, you don't remember how I even got involved with you guys, I'm sure, because it was such a tiny thing. So for all the artists out there trying to make connections, this is what happened. I think this is hilarious. I was just sort of going to other exhibits because I knew that there were plenty of venues out there that I didn't have any contacts with or any, and I got introduced to you by a friend, Ben, and you turned to me and said, and he said that you do this show, the unicorn show, and you turned to me and said, yeah, well, we're doing mythological creatures now. Do you have any mythological creatures? And I went, I have a Medusa. And you're like, cool. And that was it. Like that was how we got started working together. That was the how I got exhibited there. And now we've been doing it like really every year, a couple times a year, and doing this. Like, so it is so funny how tiny little conversations can become real relationships. Yeah.
We did have a question from one of the viewers.
Oh,
Susan
yeah.
Moore. She's asking if your studio is quiet when you paint, or what kind of music do you listen to?
I don't listen to music because what I have found is I get into the music and that impacts what I paint. I also don't drink. Like every once in a while I'd be like, oh, I should have a glass of wine. Like, nope, can't have wine. I might paint later, because all that impacts all that impacts what happens on the canvas. So I do listen to the news, or I will watch movies or binge TV series that don't require a whole lot of my attention.
Yeah.
So.
I always say Netflix needs like a category where it's like something you can watch while you're on your phone. Like,
Yeah,
I need the multitask, like show to binge so I can continue on.
I have binged a lot of series over the years now.
Yes.
What was the last one you binged?
What's that?
What was the last show you binged?
Oh, it's French. It's a horror story. It starts with an M. I can't think of it now, but it's on Netflix.
Yes.
And then of course His Dark Materials. I just watched that. I've rewatched all the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost films over and over and over again. Like that never gets bad. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We just started Raised by Wolves.
Oh, I watched that too. Yeah. That I couldn't watch while I painted. It required too much of my attention.
Yeah.
I was like, it's 2 a.m. We haven't stayed up this late in like months. We have to go to bed.
I was falling asleep. She drank tea, so she was just like wide awake.
This is amazing. But let's see some more of your stuff. Do you want to show, or do you want me to show?
Why don't you randomly put something up so I'll be surprised. See what interests you.
Whoops, that was not the right one. Come on. Share. All right. Can you see?
I see you have my Instagram page, huh?
Yes.
Yep.
So Just for a side note, while we're here, if like other artists want to come and talk to you about stuff, like is Instagram the best spot for them?
Instagram or my email, which is on Instagram, which is deborahhelene@gmail.com. My Instagram is Helene Woods on Instagram. Those are the two best places to get a hold of me.
This is really cool.
Yeah, so this is one of the COVID drawings. And just so people know, I'm not using live models. What I do is I belong to an artist site where the models are paid to do tons of poses. And what you get are, thousands of different models in thousands of different poses, but they know that artists are looking at them and using their image, and they've signed an agreement to allow that.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
I like that a lot. So
Can you share that website like in your comments afterwards?
yes, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, there's a couple of them, and I think it's only like $30 a year. It's not bad. Let's see. So this is just one of the COVID drawings, and I can't really tell you a lot about it other than I was just doing a lot of work with bodies in this state of, what people were telling me was that they don't remember a lot. They could hear things, but some people felt like they were floating, or they were just in another area, and every once in a while they were aware of people around them, but for the most part, because they're being so medicated to keep them from being in pain while they're intubated, while a machine is literally breathing for them, that they don't remember a lot. So I guess this was more about that sort of thing that people were telling me.
Yeah, this almost looks like the rings of a tree.
Yeah.
And it has like, I think the forced perspective is
Yeah.
probably what drew me to it, because I haven't seen something like this with a singular figure of some of your work that I like can recall right now. It also has like a very like Christ-like spirit.
Yes. Yeah. And there's even a crown. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're also placed in these some of the medical facilities have these sort of round tubes that people are in, and that's sort of what it's referencing, at the same time kind of referencing, a coffin.
Like an incubation chamber.
Right.
And since we've gone over the COVID project, I'm going to just kind of move a little bit further back. And then I will say that like I only enjoy them because like it's always fun to see something when an artist does something different. But your little sprites that you did,
Yeah. So
um,
there's a few little sprites there. The sprites were just like, yeah. They're just an opportunity for me to have something small that people can buy at art fairs. And I have all these human figures, and I was trying to figure out a way to like do something similar to my big stuff, but that wouldn't take up a ton of time, so I could still just have something there. I have these for sale on my Etsy site, which is Helene Woods Art at Etsy. And yeah, they're just sort of a fun thing to do. So I would cut out all those little figures because I had so many drawings, and I just added them I would just play around with canvases and add them to it. They're fun.
I bring them up for the practical reason from it. And when I say practical, it's like I have also created very large paintings.
Yeah.
And then like I think that when we have a lot of large canvases there, generally, this is take this with a grain of salt. Generally, larger canvases take more time.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, that price for a larger canvas, materials plus time, is always going to be higher than maybe something a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
And for most humans that that like love and admire work, not everyone can afford the price tag, or they can afford the space to have a large piece of artwork. Not everybody. And so like when you make smaller things like that, like sometimes I feel like I see buyers come in and they'll see something big, and then when they see something small, I feel like there's like a nerd collector feeling that happens where they're like, aha, for me, I'm gonna take this, it's mine.
It's like, ooh, gimme.
And then
gimme.
I think when I saw these little guys, I was like, aha, there it is. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, my biggest sale day of the year is always Otherworldly. And for people who are looking for me, I'm usually at the A-Mill building. I rent space there for Otherworldly, and most of that revenue is from those tiny little paintings. Like I'll have the big stuff there, but yeah.
I know. Yeah, I know that we got like a little bit of a tour of your studio, but
yeah, those are all 4x4 feet to give you an idea. That's just me stretching and gessoing.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's my house in the middle. That's the upstairs.
This one was in the background right there too.
Yeah, it's here somewhere. I think it's facing a wall. That's called bar scene. Oh, there's my son. We did a mural together at Foley Elementary School. So that was his first mural. That was a lot of fun doing that with my son. He was in charge of the music too, so I learned a lot about music at the time. That was last summer.
So are your children interested in art too?
He wants to be a tattoo artist. He's the only one. My oldest is in college for global studies, and my youngest wants to be an engineer. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but Matthew does want to be an artist. Yes.
I don't know if you saw Mike's conversation, but he was like, there's one day my kid was doing art with me, and then like now he's doing something else. And I was like, I would have loved to have an art parent as a child. Like I would have loved to have somebody that was like, let's do art. Like,
yeah.
My oldest does do ceramics, but she has no plans on that being a career, apparently.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I went to like art workshops and art camps and all that kind of stuff when I was younger, all through like middle school and everything. But then got to high school and just didn't really do anything, and just kind of, I still drew here and there, but I never really got that into it, I suppose. Just kind of fell out of it.
But I still have like this theory that like all humans are creative humans, you know, like we all have like the ability to create. And you know, art, I feel like there's a reason that like being an artist is also being like, this is a discipline. You know what I mean? Like if
it's hard,
well, it is hard, but like I'm saying that like, you know, engineering is creative, like global studies, like strategy, like all of that stuff, like is creativity in a different flavor.
Right.
You know? It's different than doing this. I try and like underline the fact that it's discipline. Like you are disciplined to be an artist.
Oh, I would agree with that. Yeah. So, that one was called Calypso, by the way.
I had it on. We didn't talk about it. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Are these the Monticello panels?
Yeah. Yep. When I finally got done with those two, like as I did them, I was posting them on Instagram. There's probably some that, oh yeah, that one. People really like that one. I've never been all that thrilled with that one. I don't know.
Isn't that what happens?
Yeah.
It's always the one that you're like, why that one?
I know. That is really true. I am a bad guesser at what people are going to respond to and what they don't. Yeah, so there the panels are being taken to the community center. Yeah, and we could only fit 4 so they had to make several trips.
Man.
I don't know if were you at the Gods and Monsters that Sean Flick had to bring in his
Yes.
Oh my
goodness. So nuts.
Oh, Sean.
And he sold that too, right?
It's just it was beautiful.
Because he was either going to sell it or give it away because he didn't want to take it home.
Yeah, well, I'm glad he sold it. It was an amazing piece. I loved it. It was terrifying and beautiful. Yeah.
He is one talented kid. I mean, everybody is the talented kids, but still, that's like, how did you make sure that like your paint didn't get scuffed? Like putting it on that flatbed like that.
Well, there were some logistical problems that resulted in installation delays. So, but we did our best.
You have to strap it down?
Yeah, they did strap it down. Yeah. Well, there's one of the unicorns. Yeah, so there they are on the floor. You can see.
Man. So like, do you just like have to hop like back and forth? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I learned how to kind of do the splits every now and then. And the hard part was like I'd have paint on one side of the canvas, but then I'm like going over to the next side. So then I would have things in caddies, so I wasn't constantly, but there were bottles and jars of paint everywhere as a result of doing this. And I would lose track of where stuff was. And
do you, I'm not that familiar with acrylic ink. Do you have to seal it afterwards?
well, these were sealed because they were going to go outside. And sometimes I will varnish and sometimes I don't. I don't know that it's really necessary. So. Oh, that one's huge. That is another 6 by 8 foot called, I can't remember what it's called, but basically it was like, the Princess and the Pea. That's the Princess and the Pea. And there is some strong vaginal imagery going on there, by the way.
Just gonna say that.
And I have it hanging in my foyer, so like, if you come over, you are faced with strong vaginal imagery. Yeah.
What?
My daughter heard that, and now she wants to look.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's my own fault.
Vaginal imagery? Where?
Okay, go upstairs and you can check it out. Like right now. We'll talk about it later.
Is it because of the pillow shit?
Okay, we're not going to talk about it now.
Where's the vagina, Mom?
Seriously, I will have a conversation with you about this in a few minutes. Just wait.
Long. I'm getting bored of.
Woo, art
10
mom!
minutes. Give me 10
Woo!
minutes. Okay, off you
Getting
go.
pretty bored.
Okay, she's gone.
Actually, I saw time.
I know, we're almost out of time. Jeez.
Yeah.
This is do you want to show anything last?
You know, we did a really good job showing everything that I really wanted to get out there. So thank you for that. So. And thank you to everybody who came and listened to us. This was really fun. So.
Hey, Mom, I just noticed something.
Not now. Just wait. It'll have to wait.
It's about art.
Okay, later.
Can I please just tell you right now?
No.
It's about the difference in your old art and your newer art.
We're gonna go to
It's
one of these.
Okay,
your
we have to.
style.
We're about to sign off. So hold on. Sorry about that.
I just have to throw one little unicorn art show in there.
Yes.
So.
Yes, that was Breaking Beauty. I had so much fun making that.
I love that one.
Okay.
And just so everyone knows, that one is still for sale, but it's in my bedroom. So.
Okay. Well, we're at the end of our time. And if people want to talk to you, we mentioned it earlier, but just in case you missed it, the best way to talk to Helene is through Instagram, right?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Or email.
Or email. And then obviously when it is safe to meet again, keep being like, it's also okay to talk to everyone in person too. That's totally fine. And if you have material questions or like, any other type of art questions, and I'm putting in my little book of ideas that we might have to come back around to talking about doing like a critique circle or something.
I would love that. That would be so much fun and helpful.
We might be able to do it through Zoom. It's a little hard though. I don't know, but I'll write it down. But thank you so much, and
yay.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for.
I didn't screw up too much.
You did not screw up. You did
I
good.
think stay with us here as well.
No. Okay.
It's something.
Bye.
To do as
Bye,
well.
you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Whoops.
Exit.